Claire Whitman thought she was just taking another caregiving job, but she had no idea she was walking into a love story that would change everything. When the successful millionaire Ethan Cole hired her to help him navigate life after a devastating accident, both of them built walls so high that love seemed impossible. She was determined to keep things professional after her last relationship nearly destroyed her, while he was convinced that no one could see past his wheelchair to the man he still was inside. But some connections are too powerful to ignore, and some hearts are too stubborn to stay protected forever. What started as daily care routines slowly became stolen glances, deep conversations, and a bond neither of them saw coming, until the day everything changed and they had to choose between playing it safe and risking it all for love. If you want to know how their story unfolds, subscribe and tell me what city you're watching from. Claire Whitman pulled her old Honda into the curved driveway and stared up at the house. It wasn't a mansion, but it was bigger than anything she'd ever lived in. Clean white walls, wide windows, and a ramp leading to the front door instead of steps. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect, maybe. She checked her phone one more time. The address was right. She was early, which was good. Being on time mattered for jobs like this one. She smoothed down her navy blue cardigan and grabbed her purse. Her hands shook a little, but that was normal. First days always made her nervous. The doorbell played a soft tune when she pressed it. She waited, listening to footsteps inside. The door opened to reveal a tall black man in a wheelchair. Even sitting down, she could tell he was probably over 6 feet. His shoulders were broad under a crisp white shirt. His dark eyes looked her up and down. Not rude, just careful. "Ms. Whitman?" His voice was deep and calm. "Yes, that's me, Claire." She smiled and held out her hand. He shook it briefly. His grip was firm. "Ethan Cole, please come in." The inside of the house was as clean as the outside. Hardwood floors, simple furniture, everything in its place. No family pictures on the walls, no mess anywhere. It felt like a hotel more than a home. "Would you like some water?" Ethan rolled his chair toward the kitchen. "That would be nice, thank you." She followed him, watching how easily he moved. The kitchen had lower counters and cabinets. Everything was within reach from his chair. He filled a glass from a fancy water pitcher and handed it to her. "Let's sit in the living room," he said. "We can talk about the position." They moved to a sitting area with a couch and 2 chairs. Ethan positioned his wheelchair across from the couch. Claire sat on the edge of the cushions, back straight, hands folded. "Tell me about your experience," Ethan said. Claire took a small sip of water. "I've been a licensed home caregiver for 4 years. I worked with Mrs. Patterson for 2 years before she passed, then Mr. Williams for 8 months until he moved to Florida with his daughter. Both had mobility issues. Mrs. Patterson used a walker. Mr. Williams had a stroke and needed help with daily tasks." "Oh, what kind of daily tasks?" "Bathing, dressing, meal preparation, light housekeeping, physical therapy exercises, sometimes just companionship." She paused. "The agency gave you my references, right?" "Yes, they spoke highly of you." Ethan's expression didn't change. "This position would be full-time, Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, some weekends if needed. Are you comfortable with that?" "Yes, sir." "The pay is $1,500 a week." Claire almost choked on her water. That was more than she'd made in a month at her last job. "That's very generous. I expect professional service, no personal conversations beyond what's necessary for care, no friends or family visiting during work hours, and absolutely no discussion of my private life with anyone outside this house." His tone was flat, businesslike. Claire nodded. "I understand. I was in a car accident 6 months ago. I'm paralyzed from the waist down. I need assistance with bathing, dressing, transfers to and from the bed, light housekeeping and meal preparation. I have physical therapy 3 times a week that you would help with." "Okay. Do you have any questions about the physical requirements?" Claire felt heat rise in her cheeks. She'd helped elderly clients bathe before, but something about this felt different. Maybe because Ethan was young, maybe because he was so serious and distant. "No questions," she said. "Good." Ethan rolled closer to his side table and picked up a folder. "These are the legal documents: confidentiality agreement, employment contract, emergency contacts. Look them over tonight. If you're still interested, be here at 8 tomorrow morning." Claire took the folder. Should I call you tonight to confirm? No, if you're here tomorrow, I'll know you took the job. If you're not, I'll know you didn't. She stood up. Okay, well, I'll see you tomorrow then. Ms. Whitman, Ethan's voice stopped her at the door. This is a professional arrangement, nothing more. Are we clear? Yes, sir, crystal clear. Claire sat at her kitchen table that night, reading through the papers. The contract was thick with legal language, but the important parts were simple. She would help Ethan with personal care, keep his house clean, prepare his meals, and keep her mouth shut about all of it. In return, she'd make more money than she'd ever dreamed of. Her phone buzzed, a text from her sister Lena. How did the interview go? Claire typed back. Got the job. Start tomorrow. That's great. What's he like? Claire stared at the screen. How could she explain Ethan Cole? Rich, obviously. Handsome in a stern way. Hurt, both physically and in ways she couldn't name yet, and so determined to keep distance between them that it felt like a wall. Professional, she typed. Very professional. Well, just be careful. Rich men can be complicated. It's just a job, Lena. Sure it is. Love you. Love you too. Claire set the phone aside and looked at the contract again. The salary line still made her heart race. With that kind of money, she could pay off her student loans, maybe even save up for a down payment on a house. All she had to do was help someone who clearly didn't want to need help. She'd done harder things. At 7:45 the next morning, Claire rang the doorbell again. This time she heard the wheelchair before the door opened. Good morning, Ethan said. He looked exactly the same as yesterday. White button-down shirt, dark pants, every hair in place. Good morning, Mr. Cole. Ethan is fine. Come in. I'll show you around properly today. The tour didn't take long. The house had one floor with wide hallways and doorways. Ethan's bedroom was large with a hospital bed next to a regular bed. The bathroom had grab bars and a roll-in shower. Everything was designed for someone in a wheelchair, but it didn't look medical. It looked expensive. The nurse comes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, Ethan explained. Physical therapy is Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Your main responsibilities are personal care, meals, and light housekeeping. They ended up back in the kitchen. What would you like for breakfast? Claire asked. I usually have eggs and toast, coffee. How do you like your eggs? Scrambled, not too dry. Claire washed her hands and got to work. She found the eggs, bread, and coffee without trouble. Everything was organized and easy to reach. While the coffee brewed, she scrambled eggs in a non-stick pan, checking them carefully. Not too dry, he'd said. Do you cook much? Ethan asked from behind her. I like to. I'm not fancy, but I can make most basic things taste good. Mrs. Patterson mentioned in her recommendation letter that you make excellent soup. Claire smiled, her first real smile since yesterday. She loved my chicken noodle soup. I made it for her every time she felt a cold coming on. Did it work? She never got sick while I worked for her, but that might have been luck. She plated his eggs with buttered toast and set it in front of him with coffee, black since he hadn't asked for anything in it. Thank you. He took a bite. These are good. You're welcome. Claire made herself a piece of toast and ate it standing at the counter. Ethan ate in silence, checking his phone occasionally. When he finished, she cleared his plate. What's next? She asked. I usually shower after breakfast. The words hung in the air between them. Claire felt her cheeks warm again, but she kept her voice steady. Okay, what do you need me to do? Help me transfer to the shower seat. Stay nearby in case I need assistance. Hand me things if I can't reach them. All right. They went to the bedroom. Ethan moved from his chair to the edge of the bed, then started unbuttoning his shirt. Claire turned away, pretending to organize things on his dresser. Ms. Whitman, she turned back. He was sitting on the bed in his underwear, looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. This is part of the job. You don't need to look away. I know, She took a breath. I'm still getting used to it. That's fair, but it will be easier for both of us if we treat it like what it is. Medical care. Claire nodded. Medical care. She could think of it that way. Ethan transferred himself to his wheelchair and rolled into the bathroom. The shower was large, with no step, just a slight slope in the floor. A shower seat sat in the middle. Claire helped him move from the chair to the seat, trying to be professional and not think about how strong his arms were or the scars she could see on his back. I can manage from here, he said. Just stay close. She stepped outside the shower area but stayed in the bathroom, looking at anything except him. The sound of water running filled the silence. She heard him washing, moving carefully but independently. "Can you hand me the shampoo?" he called. She grabbed the bottle from the shelf and handed it to him, eyes focused on the tile wall. "You can look at me, Claire. I'm not going to break." She met his eyes. Water ran down his face and shoulders. He looked normal, like a man taking a shower, not a patient in need of pity. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For saying that." When he finished, she helped him back to his wheelchair and left while he dried off and dressed. By the time she came back with fresh towels, he was back in his chair wearing jeans and a gray sweater. "How was that?" he asked. "Fine, good." She folded the used towels. "Is there anything else you need this morning?" "Not until lunch. I have some work calls to make. Feel free to familiarize yourself with the house. There's a list of household tasks on the refrigerator." Claire spent the morning learning where everything was kept. Cleaning supplies, extra linens, food in the pantry. The house wasn't messy, but it wasn't lived in either. No dishes in the sink, no books left open, no shoes by the door. It felt like Ethan was a guest in his own home. She was wiping down the bathroom counters when she heard voices from the living room. A woman's voice, older, concerned. "Barely eating, and you never call anymore." "I'm fine, Mom. You don't need to worry." "Of course I worry. You're my son." Claire stayed in the bathroom, not wanting to interrupt, but she couldn't help hearing. "Is the new caregiver working out?" the woman asked. "It's her first day, but yes, she seems competent." "Just be careful, honey. I know you're lonely, but these arrangements can get complicated." "It won't get complicated. I've made that very clear." Claire felt her stomach tighten. She focused on scrubbing the already clean sink. "I hope so. The last thing you need is more drama." "There won't be any drama, Mom, I promise." A few minutes later, Claire heard the front door close. She finished in the bathroom and went to find Ethan. He was in his home office staring at his computer screen. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Fine. That was my mother. She stops by sometimes." Claire nodded. She wanted to ask about the conversation she'd overheard, but it wasn't her business. Professional arrangement, he'd said. Nothing more. "What would you like for lunch?" "Whatever's easy. Sandwich is fine." She made him a turkey sandwich with lettuce and tomato, adding a small bag of chips and an apple. When she brought it to his office, he looked up from his computer. "Thank you, this looks good." "You're welcome." She turned to leave. "Claire?" She stopped. "Yes? How was your first morning? Really?" She studied his face. He looked tired, maybe a little sad. For the first time since she'd met him, he didn't look like he was made of stone. "It was fine," she said. "Different from what I'm used to, but fine." "Different how?" "You're younger than my other clients, and—" She paused. "And what?" "You don't seem to need much help. Not really." Something flickered in his eyes. "I need more help than you might think." "With what?" He looked back at his computer screen. "Eat your lunch, Claire. We have a long afternoon ahead." As she walked back to the kitchen, Claire wondered what he meant. From where she stood, Ethan Cole seemed to have everything under control. Nice house, successful business, independence despite his injury. What kind of help could he possibly need? But something in his voice, in that brief moment when his guard came down, told her there was more to the story. Much more. The afternoon passed quietly. Ethan worked in his office while Claire cleaned and organized. She prepared a simple dinner of grilled chicken and vegetables, which they ate in comfortable silence. By 6 o'clock, her first day was officially over. "Same time tomorrow?" she asked, gathering her purse. "Yes, thank you for today." "You're welcome." She was almost to the door when he spoke again. "Claire, you did well today. I know this situation is unusual." She turned back. "It's not unusual. It's just a job." But even as she said the words, Claire knew they weren't entirely true. There was something about Ethan Cole, something beyond his injury or his money or his carefully controlled distance that made this feel like anything but just a job. She just couldn't figure out what it was yet. 1 week later, Claire's morning routine felt natural. She arrived at 7:45, made coffee first, then helped Ethan with his shower and dressing. Today was different, though. Today, Nurse Patel was coming for Ethan's weekly checkup. She's very thorough, Ethan warned as Claire set his breakfast in front of him. Asks a lot of questions. What kind of questions? About my care, my mood, how I'm adjusting. He took a sip of coffee. She means well, but she can be intense. The doorbell rang at exactly 9 o'clock. Claire opened it to find a small Indian woman with graying hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. You must be Claire, the woman said with a slight accent. I'm Nurse Patel. How has your first week been? Good, really good. Nurse Patel stepped inside, carrying a black medical bag. Where's our patient? Living room, Ethan called out, and I can hear you. Nurse Patel smiled. How are you feeling today, Ethan? Fine. Fine is not a medical term. Be specific. Claire watched as Nurse Patel checked Ethan's blood pressure, looked at his legs for any problems, and asked him to do simple exercises. The whole time she asked questions. Are you eating well? Yes. Sleeping through the night? Mostly. Any pain or discomfort? Nothing I can't handle. Nurse Patel looked up from writing notes. And you, Claire? How's he really doing? Claire glanced at Ethan, then back at the nurse. He seems to be doing well. He's independent with most things, eats regular meals, keeps a normal schedule. Good. And emotionally? Is he engaging with you, talking? Claire hesitated. Ethan talked to her, but only about practical things. The weather, what to make for lunch, whether the physical therapist was coming early or late, never anything personal. We keep things professional, Claire said finally. Nurse Patel made another note. After she finished her examination, she asked to speak with Claire privately in the kitchen. How is he really? She asked in a low voice. I told you, he seems fine. Ethan has been through a major trauma, not just physical, but emotional. 6 months ago, he was completely independent. Now he needs help with basic tasks. That's hard for anyone, but especially hard for someone like him. Someone like him? Proud, successful, used to being in control. Nurse Patel closed her notebook. He hired you because he needs help, but he's going to fight accepting it. Just be patient with him. He's not fighting anything with me. He's been very clear about what he needs. Has he talked to you about anything other than work? Claire thought about it. No, not really. That's what I was afraid of, Nurse Patel sighed. He's isolating himself emotionally. It's common after this type of injury, but it's not healthy long term. What should I do about it? Just be yourself. Be kind. Don't push, but don't let him shut you out completely either. After Nurse Patel left, Claire found Ethan in his office staring at his computer without really looking at it. Everything okay? She asked. She thinks I'm depressed. Claire stepped into the room. Are you? He looked at her for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe. Does it matter? Of course it matters. Why? The question caught her off guard. Because you're a person. Your feelings matter. I'm your employer. My feelings aren't your concern. Something in his tone made her angry. Not furious, just frustrated. You know what? You're right. Your feelings aren't my job. But pretending you don't have any isn't working. Ethan's eyebrows went up. Excuse me. You heard me. Claire crossed her arms. You can pay me to help you shower and make your meals and clean your house, but you can't pay me to pretend you're a robot. I never asked you to. You didn't have to ask. You made it clear from day one that this was supposed to be professional. No personal conversations, no getting to know each other. Just business. She paused. But we're both human beings spending 40 hours a week together. Pretending we're not is just weird. Ethan stared at her. Claire held her breath, wondering if she'd just talked herself out of the best job she'd ever had. Then something unexpected happened. Ethan laughed. It wasn't a big laugh, just a small chuckle, but it was the first time she'd heard him make that sound. It changed his whole face, made him look younger and less guarded. You think I'm weird? He asked. A little bit. Yeah. Fair enough. He turned his chair to face her fully. What would you like to know? I don't want to interrogate you. It might be nice if we could have normal conversations sometimes, like normal people do. Okay, normal conversation. He thought for a moment. How long have you been a caregiver? 4 years? I sort of fell into it by accident. How do you accidentally become a caregiver? Claire sat down in the chair across from his desk. My grandmother had a stroke when I was in college. I took a semester off to help take care of her. I liked it. Helping people, I mean. Making their lives a little easier when things are hard. What were you studying before that? Business. Boring stuff. I was only doing it because I didn't know what else to do. She smiled. My dad was not thrilled when I changed majors to health sciences. But you did it anyway. Yeah, it felt right. She looked at him. What about you? What did you want to be when you grew up? Rich, Claire laughed. That's it? Just rich? Pretty much. I wanted to have enough money that I never had to worry about anything. His expression grew more serious. I grew up poor, really poor. My mom worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. I decided early that I was going to make enough money to take care of her and never be scared about bills again. Did it work? The money part, yes. The not worrying part, he shrugged. You always find new things to worry about. Like what? Ethan was quiet for a moment. Like whether the people in your life care about you or just your bank account. Like whether you've worked so hard to be successful that you forgot how to be happy. Like what happens when something goes wrong and all that control you thought you had just disappears. The honesty in his voice surprised her. Is that what happened? With the accident? Yeah. One minute I was driving to a business meeting, completely in control of my life. The next minute I was in a hospital bed being told I'd never walk again. He looked down at his hands. All that success, all that money, and it couldn't fix the one thing that mattered? Claire felt something squeeze in her chest. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. It happened. I'm dealing with it. Are you, though? He looked up sharply. What do you mean? I mean, you live in this beautiful house, but it feels like a hotel. You don't have any pictures up, any personal things around. You eat meals by yourself and work alone in your office all day. That's not dealing with it. That's just existing. Ethan was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer. What would you suggest I do about it? I don't know. Maybe start small, like having a conversation with your caregiver once in a while. We're having one now. Yeah, we are, Claire smiled. How does it feel? Terrifying? A little bit. But he was almost smiling too. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone older, someone who would just do the job and not ask questions. Sorry to disappoint you. I didn't say I was disappointed. The physical therapist arrived that afternoon, interrupting their conversation. Claire watched from across the room as Ethan worked through exercises designed to keep his upper body strong and help with transfers. He was focused and determined, pushing himself harder than the therapist suggested. Take it easy, the man said. You don't have to prove anything. I'm fine, Ethan replied, continuing the exercise. Ethan, the therapist's voice was firm. Rest for a minute. Reluctantly, Ethan stopped. Claire brought him a water bottle and a towel. Thanks, he said, breathing hard. You okay? Yeah, just frustrated sometimes. With the exercises? With everything. He wiped sweat from his face. 6 months ago, I could run 5 miles without breathing hard. Now I get tired lifting weights. Claire sat down next to him on the exercise mat. 6 months ago, I couldn't make scrambled eggs without burning them. Now I can make them exactly how you like them. That's not the same thing. No, it's not, but it's still progress. She handed him the water bottle again. Maybe instead of thinking about what you can't do anymore, you could focus on what you're learning to do differently. Like what? Like trusting someone else to help you. That's probably harder than running 5 miles. Ethan considered this. You think so? I know so. You're not good at asking for help. How can you tell? Because you apologize every time you need something. And you say, thank you about 50 times a day for things that are literally my job. I was raised to be polite. There's polite, and then there's acting like you're bothering someone by existing. The therapist came back over, before Ethan could respond, but Claire noticed him thinking about her words for the rest of the session. That evening, as Claire was getting ready to leave, Ethan called her back. Claire? Yeah? Thank you for today. For the conversation, I mean. You don't have to thank me for talking to you like a normal person, Ethan. Maybe not, but I wanted to. He paused. Would it be okay if we did this again sometime? Had a normal conversation? Of course. Anytime you want. Good, he smiled, a real smile this time. Have a good evening. You too. As Claire drove home, she found herself thinking about what Nurse Patel had said. Ethan was isolating himself emotionally, building walls to keep people at a distance. But today, just for a little while, he'd let one of those walls come down. Maybe that was a kind of progress, too. Her phone rang as she pulled into her driveway. Lena. How was work today? Her sister asked. Different. Different how? Claire thought about how to explain it. We actually talked today, like, had a real conversation. About what? Life, his accident, growing up poor, normal stuff. Claire. Lena's voice carried a warning. Be careful. It was just talking, Lena. Famous last words. You like him, don't you? He's my employer. That's not an answer. Claire sighed. It doesn't matter if I like him. This is a job. If you say so, just remember what happened with Marcus. Claire's stomach tightened at the mention of her ex-boyfriend. Marcus had been charming and successful and everything she thought she wanted. He'd also been controlling and manipulative, making her question her own judgment about everything. This is nothing like Marcus. I hope you're right. I just don't want to see you get hurt again. I won't. I'm smarter now. After she hung up, Claire sat in her car for a few minutes. Lena was right to be concerned. Claire had a habit of getting emotionally involved with the people she cared for. It came from wanting to help, from seeing the person behind the problem. But Ethan wasn't like her other clients. He was young, attractive, successful. And despite his injury, despite his walls, there was something about him that drew her in. That was dangerous. She knew it was dangerous. But when she remembered the way he'd laughed earlier, the way his face had changed when he let his guard down, she couldn't bring herself to care about the danger. Maybe some risks were worth taking. The next morning, Claire arrived to find Ethan already dressed and in the kitchen, attempting to make coffee. You're up early, she said. Couldn't sleep. He looked frustrated. And I can't figure out this new coffee maker. Here, let me. Claire took over, measuring coffee and water. Bad night? Just thinking too much. About what? Ethan hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. About what you said yesterday. About learning to do things differently. Yeah? I've been thinking that maybe I've been isolating myself. More than I realized. Claire started the coffee maker and turned to face him. What made you think about it? My mom called last night. She invited me to dinner with her and my aunt this weekend. He paused. I said no, like I always do. But after I hung up, I couldn't remember the last time I said yes to anything social. Why did you say no? Because it's complicated. They hover. They look at me like I'm broken. They ask how I'm doing in that voice people use when they think you're fragile. Maybe they just love you and don't know how to show it. Maybe. Ethan accepted the cup of coffee she handed him. But it's easier to just stay here. Easier, yeah, but is it better? I don't know anymore. He took a sip of coffee. What do you think I should do? Claire was surprised by the question. You want my advice? Yeah, you seem to have good instincts about people. I think you should call your mom back and say you changed your mind. Just like that? Just like that. It's dinner, not surgery. If it goes badly, you leave early. If it goes well, maybe you do it again sometime. Ethan nodded slowly. Okay? Okay? I'll call her after breakfast. Claire smiled. Good. As she made his eggs, she found herself humming softly. Something had shifted between them, some invisible barrier coming down. It felt like progress. It felt like the beginning of something new. The dinner with Ethan's family went better than expected. He told Claire about it the next Monday morning while she helped him get ready for the day. My mom cried when I called her back, he said, pulling a sweater over his head. Happy tears, but still, I felt awful for making her worry so much. How was the dinner itself? Awkward at first, but then my aunt started telling stories about when I was little, and it felt more normal. He paused. They did hover a bit, but not as much as I expected. Maybe I was being too sensitive before. Maybe they were learning how to act around you too. It's probably hard for them, seeing you hurt and not knowing how to help. I hadn't thought about it that way. Ethan transferred to his wheelchair. Thank you for pushing me to go. I didn't push, I just suggested. Same thing. Over the next few weeks, their conversations became easier and more natural. Ethan started asking Claire about her life outside work. She told him about her sister Lena, who worked as a teacher and worried too much. About her parents, who lived in Ohio and called every Sunday. About her small apartment and her dream of someday having a garden. "What would you grow?" Ethan asked one afternoon. They were sitting in his backyard while he got some fresh air. "Tomatoes, definitely. Maybe some herbs. I love the idea of cooking with things I grew myself. There's plenty of space here if you want to start a garden." Claire looked at the large, empty yard. "Really? Sure, it would be nice to have something growing back here instead of just grass. That would be amazing. But I'd need to research what grows well here, when to plant things. We could do that together. I have time." The word "we" hung between them, loaded with possibility. Claire felt something flutter in her chest but pushed it down. This was still a professional relationship, even if it felt like friendship, but the line between professional and personal was getting blurrier every day. One morning in late March, Claire arrived to find Ethan still in bed, staring at the ceiling. "You okay?" she asked. "Today's the anniversary." "Anniversary of what?" "The accident, 6 months ago today." Claire sat on the edge of the regular bed next to his hospital bed. "How are you feeling about that?" "Angry, mostly. At the other driver for running the red light. At the doctors for not being able to fix me. At myself for not seeing it coming." He turned his head to look at her. "Is that stupid?" "No. It's human. I keep thinking about all the things I was supposed to do. I had a meeting that day about expanding my business. I was going to call this woman I'd been thinking about asking out. I had plans to go hiking that weekend." His voice got quieter. "I had a whole life planned out, and it all just stopped. But you have a life now, too. This isn't living, Claire. This is just getting by." She felt a flare of frustration. "You think because you can't walk, you're not really alive?" "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." She stood up. "You have a successful business, a family that loves you, a beautiful home. You're healthy and smart and—" She stopped herself before saying, "handsome. And what? And you're sitting here feeling sorry for yourself instead of appreciating what you do have." Ethan's eyes flashed. "Easy for you to say. You can walk away from this conversation. Literally, walk. You're right, I can walk. But you know what I can't do? I can't afford health insurance. I can't buy a house. I've never had a relationship that lasted longer than 8 months because I always pick men who want to control me." She crossed her arms. "Everyone has things they can't do, Ethan. The difference is how you deal with it." They stared at each other in silence. Claire realized she'd probably gone too far, but she didn't take it back. Finally, Ethan spoke. 8 months? What? You said your relationships never last longer than 8 months. Why is that? Claire sat back down, some of her anger fading. "I don't know. I guess I have bad judgment about men. I always think I can help them or fix them or that they'll change if I just love them enough." "What happened with the last one?" She was quiet for a moment. "His name was Marcus. We dated for 6 months. He seemed perfect at first. Successful, charming, thoughtful. But gradually, he started making decisions for me. Little things at first. What restaurant to go to, what I should wear. Then bigger things. He didn't like my friends. Thought my job was beneath me. He wanted me to quit and let him take care of me. That doesn't sound so bad. It was bad because it wasn't really about taking care of me. It was about control. He wanted me to need him so much that I couldn't leave." She looked down at her hands. "By the time I figured it out, I'd already cut ties with most of my friends and was depending on him for everything." "How did you get out?" "My sister Lena, she staged an intervention, basically. Made me see that I was disappearing into his idea of who I should be." Claire managed a small smile. "She helped me remember who I was before him." Ethan was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was softer. "I'm sorry. That must have been scary." "It was. But I learned something important." "What?" "That I'm stronger than I thought I was, and that I don't need someone to take care of me. I can take care of myself." "Is that why you became a caregiver? To prove you don't need taking care of?" The question caught her off guard. "Maybe. Or maybe I like being the one who helps instead of the one who needs help." There's nothing wrong with needing help sometimes, Claire. I know that. I'm here helping you, aren't I? Yes, but do you ever let anyone help you? She opened her mouth to say yes, then closed it. When was the last time she'd asked for help with anything? When was the last time she'd let someone else cook for her, or pick the movie they watched, or make a decision about her life? I'm working on it, she said finally. Me too. Something had shifted in the conversation. They were looking at each other differently now, with a new understanding. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Ethan said. You're afraid of needing people, and I'm afraid of people needing me for the wrong reasons. What do you mean? I mean, everyone who's tried to get close to me since the accident has either pitied me or wanted something from me. My money, my business connections, or just the story they can tell about dating the poor, paralyzed guy. That's awful. It's reality. That's why I wanted to keep things professional with you. I figured it was safer for both of us. And now? Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Now I think maybe safety is overrated. Claire felt her heart speed up. Ethan, I know this is complicated. I know you work for me, and there are all kinds of reasons this is a bad idea. What's a bad idea? The way I feel about you. The words hung in the air between them. Claire felt like she couldn't breathe. How do you feel about me? She asked quietly. Like you see me. Not my money, not my disability. Just me. He paused. Like maybe I'm not as broken as I thought I was. Claire's throat felt tight. You're not broken at all. Claire. His voice was gentle but serious. If we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back to just professional. I know. And if it doesn't work out, you'll lose your job. I know that too. So what do we do? Claire looked at him, at this man who'd been hurt and was still healing, who was brave enough to risk his carefully constructed walls for the possibility of something real. I don't know, she said honestly, but I know I can't keep pretending I don't care about you. You care about me? More than I should, more than is smart, she laughed shakily. Lena is going to kill me. Why? Because she warned me this would happen. She said rich men are complicated. I am complicated. So am I. They looked at each other, both scared and hopeful, and not sure what came next. Can I ask you something? Ethan said. Of course. That day you helped me with my first shower. You were nervous. Terrified, actually. Why? Claire felt heat rise in her cheeks. Because you're young and handsome, and I was afraid I'd be unprofessional. Unprofessional how? You know how. Ethan smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him all day. So you thought I was handsome from the beginning. Don't let it go to your head. Too late. Despite everything, the complicated situation, the risks, the uncertainty, Claire found herself smiling too. So what happens now? She asked. Now we figure it out as we go. That's terrifying. Yeah, Ethan said, but maybe that's okay. The physical therapy session that afternoon was different. Claire found herself watching Ethan more closely, noticing the concentration on his face, the strength in his arms, the determination he brought to every exercise. When he caught her looking, he smiled in a way that made her stomach flutter. You're staring, he said during a break. Sorry. Don't be sorry, I like it. The therapist looked between them with raised eyebrows, but didn't comment. That evening, as Claire was getting ready to leave, Ethan asked her to stay for dinner. As what? She asked. Your employee or your... My friend, someone I care about who cares about me too. Claire looked around the kitchen, at the meal she'd prepared, at the man who was offering her something she'd been afraid to want. Okay, she said, but I'm not cooking. We'll order pizza. I can't remember the last time I had pizza. Then it's definitely time. They ate sitting close together on the couch, talking and laughing more easily than they ever had. When Ethan reached over to wipe a bit of sauce from Claire's chin, the simple touch sent electricity through her whole body. Claire, he said softly. Yeah? I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you took this job. Me too. Even though it's complicated? Especially because it's complicated. When she finally left that night, Claire felt like she was floating. Everything was different now. Everything was possible. But as she drove home, a small voice in her head whispered warnings. This was her job, her livelihood. If things went wrong, she'd lose everything. And despite what she'd told Ethan about being stronger now, about being able to take care of herself, the truth was she was still scared. Scared of being hurt again, scared of making another mistake, scared of trusting her own feelings. But when she thought about the way Ethan had looked at her, the way he'd said she saw him for who he really was, those fears seemed smaller. Maybe it was time to be brave. Maybe it was time to take the risk. The next few weeks felt like living in a dream. Claire and Ethan settled into a new rhythm that was part work, part friendship, and part something neither of them was ready to name yet. They planted the garden together, choosing tomatoes and herbs and flowers. They cooked dinner together most evenings, with Ethan helping from his wheelchair while Claire handled the stove. They talked about everything, their childhoods, their dreams, their fears, but they were careful not to cross certain lines. No touching beyond the necessary help Claire provided, no conversations about what they were becoming. It felt fragile, like something that might disappear if they looked at it too closely. Then Nurse Patel came for her weekly visit. "You look different," she said to Ethan after checking his blood pressure. "Different how?" "Happier, more relaxed." She glanced toward the kitchen where Claire was preparing lunch. "Things are going well with your caregiver?" "Very well. She's good at her job." Nurse Patel made notes in her chart. "And you, Claire, how are things from your perspective?" Claire set down the sandwich she was making. "Fine. Good. You both seem more comfortable with each other than last time I was here." "We've gotten to know each other better," Claire said carefully. Nurse Patel nodded, but her expression was thoughtful. After she finished with Ethan, she asked to speak with Claire privately again. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest," she said once they were alone in the kitchen. "Okay. Are you maintaining appropriate professional boundaries?" Claire felt her cheeks get hot. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Ethan looks at you differently than he did a month ago, and you look at him differently too." Nurse Patel's voice was kind but serious. "I'm not judging you, but I need to know if your relationship has changed." Claire stared at the floor. "We're friends, that's all." "Friends?" "Yes." "Claire, I've been doing this for 20 years. I can see when there are feelings involved. The question is whether you're acting on them." "No, we're not. We haven't." Claire took a breath. "It's complicated." "It always is." Nurse Patel sat down at the kitchen table. "Can I tell you something?" Claire nodded. "I've seen this happen before. Caregivers and clients developing feelings for each other. Sometimes it works out, but more often it ends badly for everyone involved. Why? Because the relationship is built on an imbalance of power. He pays your salary. You take care of his most intimate needs. That creates a dynamic that's hard to overcome, even with the best intentions." Claire felt something cold settle in her stomach. "So you think we should stop being friends?" "I think you need to be very careful and very honest with yourselves about what you're doing." That afternoon, while Ethan was on a business call, Claire found herself thinking about what Nurse Patel had said. Power imbalance. She'd heard those words before, from her sister, from friends, from her own thoughts in quiet moments. Was that what this was? Was she just repeating the same pattern she'd fallen into with Marcus, letting someone with more money and power make decisions about her life? But it didn't feel the same. Ethan didn't try to control her. He asked for her opinions, respected her choices, treated her like an equal. The only power he had over her was the power she'd given him by caring about him. Still, the doubt crept in. When Ethan finished his call, he found her sitting in the garden, staring at the newly planted tomato seedlings. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, rolling his chair over to where she sat on the small bench. "Just thinking." "About what?" Claire looked at him, really looked at him. His dark eyes were warm and concerned. His face was open, vulnerable in a way it hadn't been when she first met him. This was the man she'd fallen for, the one who made her feel seen and valued and safe. But he was also her employer, her source of income, the person who could decide tomorrow that he didn't need her anymore. "Nurse Patel asked me about professional boundaries," she said. Ethan's expression grew serious. "What did you tell her?" "That we're friends." "Are we? Just friends?" The question hung in the air between them. Claire felt her heart racing. "I don't know," she said honestly. What are we, Ethan? He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know either. I just know that I look forward to seeing you every morning. I know that you make me laugh when I thought I'd forgotten how. I know that when you're not here, this house feels empty. That scares me. Me too. He reached out like he wanted to touch her hand, then pulled back. Why does it scare you? Claire took a shaky breath. Because the last time I let someone matter this much, I lost myself. And because you have all the power in this relationship. What do you mean? You pay my salary, Ethan. You could fire me tomorrow if you wanted to. If this goes wrong, I lose my job, my income, everything. You just lose your caregiver. Ethan looked like she'd slapped him. Is that really what you think? That this is just about convenience for me? No, but it doesn't change the facts. Then let's change the facts. How? I don't know yet, but there has to be a way. He turned his chair to face her fully. Claire, what we have isn't just employer and employee anymore. We both know that. The question is what we do about it. Before Claire could answer, her phone rang. Lena's name appeared on the screen. I should take this, she said. Hey, sister. Lena's voice was cheerful. How's work? Fine, good. Claire glanced at Ethan, who was pretending to examine the tomato plants. Just fine? You sound weird. I'm not weird. Claire Marie Whitman, I've known you for 28 years. You're weird. What's going on? Claire sighed. Can I call you back later? Are you with him right now? Lena. Oh my God, you are, and he can hear me, can't he? Lena's voice got louder. Claire, remember what we talked about. Remember Marcus. This isn't like Marcus. That's what you said about Marcus. Claire felt tears prick her eyes. I have to go. Claire, wait. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell. It's just, I worry about you. I know. I love you too. I'll call you tonight. She hung up and found Ethan watching her with a concerned expression. Everything okay? She thinks I'm making another mistake. Are you? I don't know. Maybe. Claire wiped her eyes. Everyone thinks this is a bad idea. Nurse Patel, my sister. Probably your mother if she knew. My mother doesn't get a vote in my life. Neither does your sister or Nurse Patel. But what if they're right? What if we're just fooling ourselves? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle but firm. Do you remember what you told me about your ex? About how he made decisions for you? Yeah. You're doing it again. You're letting other people decide what's right for your life. I'm being realistic. You're being scared. The truth of it hit her like a punch. She was scared. Terrified, actually. Not just of losing her job or making a mistake, but of trusting her feelings again. Of believing that someone could care about her for who she was, not what she could do for them. You're right, she admitted. I am scared. So am I. But I'm more scared of spending the rest of my life wondering what could have been. Claire looked at him. This man who'd been hurt and was still healing, who was brave enough to risk everything for the possibility of love. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't want to be your employer anymore. I want to be the man who's falling in love with you. The words took her breath away. Ethan, I know it's crazy. I know it's risky. But I also know that what I feel for you is real. And I think what you feel for me is real too. It is real. But what? But what happens to my job? How do I pay my bills? I can't just quit and hope this works out. You don't have to quit. Not right away. Ethan's voice was earnest. We can figure out the practical stuff. Maybe you could work part-time and find other clients. Maybe I could help you start your own business. Maybe we could... Ethan, stop. He stopped talking, looking at her with hope and fear in his eyes. You're doing it again, Claire said softly. Doing what? Trying to fix everything with money. Trying to take care of me. Ethan's face fell. I just want to help. I know you do, and I love that about you. But I need to know that you want me, not a project to fix. And you need to know that I want you, not your money or your help. How do we know that? Claire stood up from the bench and walked over to his chair. For the first time since she'd known him, she reached out and took his hands. We trust each other, she said. We take it slow. We figure it out together. Together? Together. Ethan squeezed her hands. What about your job? I don't know. We'll figure that out too. And your sister? She'll come around. She just wants me to be happy. And are you? Happy? Claire looked down at their joined hands, then back up at his face. Yeah, scared out of my mind, but happy. Good. Because I love you, Claire. I love your kindness and your strength and the way you see the best in people. I love how you make me want to be better than I was before. I love you too, she whispered. I love your determination and your honesty and the way you make me feel safe enough to be myself. Ethan brought her hands to his lips and kissed her knuckles gently. So, what happens now? Now we go inside and I make dinner, and we talk about how to make this work without me losing my job or you losing your caregiver. And after dinner? Claire smiled. After dinner, we call Nurse Patel and figure out how to do this the right way. She's going to have opinions. Let her have opinions. This is our choice. They went inside together, hands still linked. The conversation with Nurse Patel could wait until tomorrow. The talk with Lena could wait too. Right now, all that mattered was that they'd chosen each other, chosen to be brave, chosen to trust that love was worth the risk. As they cooked dinner together, stealing glances and small touches, Claire felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, not just for herself, but for them, for what they could build together. It wouldn't be easy. There would be practical problems to solve, skeptical family members to convince, professional boundaries to navigate. But for the first time since she'd walked into Ethan's house 2 months ago, Claire believed they could figure it out. Because they weren't alone anymore. They had each other. And that felt like everything. 3 months later, Claire sat in the same garden, now lush with tomatoes and herbs and flowers. Ethan was beside her, reading a book while she sketched plans for expanding their little plot next year. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, noticing her distracted expression. "Just how different everything is from when I first got here." "Good different or bad different?" "The best different." Ethan set down his book and reached for her hand. It was a simple gesture now, natural and comfortable. "Any regrets?" he asked. Claire considered the question seriously. The transition hadn't been smooth. They'd had to hire another caregiver for Ethan's medical needs, which meant less money for both of them initially. Lena had needed time to accept their relationship. Nurse Patel had required extensive documentation to ensure everything was ethical and legal. But none of that mattered now. "No regrets," she said firmly. "Not one. Even though I'm still complicated? Especially because you're still complicated," she smiled. "We both are. But we're complicated together now." "Together," Ethan agreed, lifting her hand to his lips. "I like the sound of that." As the sun set over their garden, Claire thought about all the fears that had nearly kept them apart. Fear of losing her job, fear of repeating past mistakes, fear of trusting her heart again. Those fears hadn't disappeared entirely, but they'd been replaced by something stronger, the knowledge that some things were worth fighting for, worth risking for, worth choosing again and again every single day. Love wasn't about finding someone who didn't scare you. It was about finding someone worth being scared for. And in Ethan, Claire had found exactly that.